video, I'll be giving an overview of the content for week 6 of the course and explaining what we'll be doing for the week 6 participation activity. First up, the content for this week. This week, we will be covering Microsoft Access and how to turn an ERD into a real database. There's a short reading from your text, Knowledge Extension 7, which briefly introduces Microsoft Access and forms. Note that this also talks about reports and queries, but we will not be covering those until a future week. So you should start this week's content by reading this chapter, that is Knowledge Extension 7. After reading Knowledge Extension 7, the next step is following along with the going from an ERD to a database tutorial. The links to all of these videos are on OWL as always, and I recommend having Access opened while you watch this tutorial so you can follow along with each step. This will teach you both how to translate an ERD into a real database, as well as how to use Microsoft Access. After that, you have a choice. I have a second optional Microsoft Access tutorial you can follow along with that shows a different example. This optional tutorial also shows how to use Access in window mode, which is not something you'll be tested on, but may make your life easier for assignments, especially when you're trying to reference things between multiple tables. I highly recommend watching this if you're struggling with that first tutorial, as seeing everything again with a new example might make things a bit more clear. Regardless of if you watch the optional tutorial or not, the next step is to watch the Access Forms tutorial. This will teach you how to create a simple database application, a graphical user interface for editing and entering data called a form. Don't worry if this sounds intimidating. Microsoft Access allows us to do this without any programming knowledge at all, and it's mostly just point and click. The last step is trying the optional MyLab homework listed on OWL, and asking any questions you have about the content on the course forums. Once you've done all these steps, you can try the participation activity for the week. And that brings us to our participation activity. This one might sound a bit intimidating, but it's actually quite fun and starts getting into the art side of software design. Make sure you watch the Access Forms video before doing this one, as it will make things much clearer. What we'll be doing is creating a wireframe or mockup of a form application for the ticket entity shown here in this little ERD. Only the ticket entity is shown in full detail, with attributes, as this is our focus for the form application. The purpose of this ticket entity is to store data about support tickets for your business. For example, if a customer has some sort of issue with your product, they might put in a ticket that your employee will respond to. So it includes foreign keys to the employee the ticket is assigned to, the customer requesting support, and the product involved in the support request. It also stores subject description, status, and severity of the ticket, as well as the date the ticket is created. So I've mentioned a wireframe a few times, but what is a wireframe? Well, it's a drawing of the user interface of a software application, a website, or a mobile application. The idea here is that before you start actually creating your application and coding that UI, you plan out where you want each component, input, button, and so on, so you have an idea of what your application is going to look like before you get started. This helps you evaluate and plan out your user interface before you even start coding it. In real life, software developers often make many wireframes of one interface, and then that helps them evaluate which one to actually implement. Keep in mind that we're not asking you to make the working form yet, just a sketch or drawing of the user interface. You can draw this on paper, use a graphics program on your computer, or software that's specifically created for wireframes and UI mockups. However you want to create the wireframe is fine, just make sure that you submit it to the Week 6 ticket form wireframe topic on OWL. After you make your post, you can then take a look at how other students design their form and maybe get some inspiration from them. Now I realize this all sounds a bit intimidating, so let's look at an example. Here we have our ticket entity. We want to make a drawing of what the application would look like that allows us to input all of this data. Note that these three attributes are foreign keys that represent the relationship between the ticket entity and other entities. Our goal is to create something that looks like this, a drawing of what the form might look like. Once again, I want to make it crystal clear that you don't have to actually make this application yet, just a drawing of it. It should include inputs for each attribute and show some example data. Here we can see I have inputs for subject, description, severity, date created, status, and so on, with some example data shown in them. Every attribute from your ticket entity should have an input of some kind in your drawing, including the foreign keys. And you should also provide data for them that makes sense for your business. Your design should include controls such as combo boxes to make it easy to select from valid values for inputs such as product ID, which allows the user to select from products in the database, or fields such as status that restricts the users to only inputting valid values. You can see here that we're using a list box and it only lists valid values for status. You should also have navigation and control buttons that allow the user to navigate between tickets, create new tickets, delete tickets, and save tickets. You can also add more features to this form, even if you don't know how to implement them yet in Access. For example, we have a search input to look up tickets, which we might not know how to deal with yet. But that's completely fine, as this is just a drawing right now, and we just want to show what our ideal form would look like, not necessarily one that we know how to create yet. Remember that you should customize this for your business, with your own title, logo, and placement of fields. They don't have to be in the same location or order as mine. This is just one possible example. You should take some time and think about what best would work for your business, what layout would work best for entering data, and what makes sense for your data in terms of what values to be in there. As with other participation activities, this is not marked on correctness, but effort you put into it. So have some fun with it and don't worry too much about how you would make this in Access at this point. Rather, think about what would be the most usable layout and what would be aesthetically pleasing. That is, what would look the best. You're also free to add any extra features if you think they'd be helpful to your employees when they're entering data or offering support to the customers. That's all I have for you in this video. Make sure you get started on reading Knowledge Extension 7 and watching those tutorial videos. Thank you for watching and have a great day.